Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat. We're a show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. I'm a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist, as well as the parent of what is now an ADHD adult. I should tell you that back in the day when my youngest was born, we didn't know anything about ADHD. Matter of fact, there was not the blessing of the American Psychiatric Association to even call anything ADHD. It wasn't until 1980 that they blessed us with attention deficit disorder, which, while not accurate, was at least shorter than what they gave us in 1987, which was attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which totally screws up, at least 2/3 of the things we use for diagnosing ADHD. But at least by then, a significant amount of research had been started, and we were doing pretty well in increasing our knowledge. Now you can find an awful lot of information about ADHD. Now, of course, you can just Google it and get a fair amount. But today, I want to talk about one of the things that, it's an issue. Let's just put it that way. Most ADHD children, especially the ones that are hyperactive, have a short fuse. Let's just put it that way. There's a lot of reasons why they should. We figure out they have about 70 critical comments they receive a day. They have a lot of notions that a lot of things that they are asked to do are almost impossible for them to do. So they've got a lot of frustration. And then we confuse things by non-specific kind of diagnosis, oppositional defiant disorder. Well, it's pretty obvious what that is, I think. Some folks will need a thesaurus, but it's still oppositional defiant. It's being defiant. It's resisting authority, but it's very non-specific. It's not, you do this 6 times in a day and that you get the diagnosis. And I happen to know for personal experience, as well as the number of families with ADHD kids that I've seen over 40 years in private practice, that you're going to get a fair number of times where they're going to be angry. The little known secret is a lot of how much problem you have with anger in your ADHD child has more to do with how you as the parent respond. If you're, I live in an area where we have a lot of retired military. I'm retired military myself. Retired military folks tend to fairly rapidly get into a position of authority where they're giving orders to people who have, fewer of these things than they do. Unfortunate, and those folks will pretty much do what you ask them to do, or what you order them to do. You don't ask, you order. And but your ADHD child is not going to respond well to that same kind of approach. Okay, do your homework, get upstairs, make your bed, and then put your laundry away. Good luck. But I'm telling you that you're going to have problems with that. And the more you insist on spare the rod and spoil the child kind of things, the more difficulties you're going to have with a child being explosive. And they're doing it, you got to realize that they're doing it out of frustration and fear than that they are rejecting all authority. I mean, the deal with these kiddos is that they have a lot of trouble doing what is pretty easy for a lot of other kids, but they feel overwhelmed. They feel like there's a lot of things that they can't do, and all the other kids seem to be able to do it, some of them pretty easily. And so, I mean, they are frustrated. And then as you, as the parent, act like you don't understand or appreciate their concerns, you're going to have more problems with temper tantrums. Okay? I am not going to call them oppositional defiant. I mean, the thing you got to realize about a diagnosis of oppositional defiance is it's very nonspecific, and it's only one step away from what's conduct disorder, which is basically your garden variety juvenile delinquent. And you don't. I mean, these kids have got enough going on without saddling them with all that baggage too. And I mean, really, the big deal is, for you as a parent, even if you're the one who's also got ADHD and you want to go off every time he or she goes off, the biggie and the way to handle it is for you to remain calm. Okay? Even if you have to leave the house and run around the block 2 or 3 times, you got to stay calm. You can't be blowing up every time there's an issue. Okay, because first of all, you'll never find out what's really going on with your kiddo. And second of all, if with a child, your job is to build trust with them, because you're the one who's going to rescue them from all the tribulations of life, and you're the one who's going to pay the freight if they decide, screw it, I can't make it anyway, so I'm going to just totally rebel against everything. I've been in therapy with some of those folks, and it is not fun. Not fun at all. And, eventually your child becomes unemployable, and never leaves the house, which never leaves home, I guess, would be more the thing. So staying calm is just basic. That's the number one thing. Before you do anything else, or even if you don't do anything else, stay calm. That's not nothing good is gonna happen if you blow up every time your child blows up. Okay, and so then you're just, competing into who's the loudest or who's the biggest and strongest. I've seen that. I mean, I grew up in New Hampshire, and in some families, it was a rite of passage that the boys in the family were considered adults when they could beat up the old man, which, that's not a good thing. And that doesn't raise particularly good citizens. It raises people with a cynical outlook on life and a tendency towards antisocial behavior. So, I mean, if you don't want to show them that the way to handle any stressful situation is to get angry and jump up and down and scream. That's not adult, that's not mature, and it's not effective. It doesn't work very well. Very few times does it actually work at all, okay? And especially when you're dealing with an ADHD kid, because all they're doing is they're looking at you and how you handle stressful situations, and they're doing just what you do. So then it's who's loudest, who's biggest, who's strongest. You don't want to get into that, okay? So you want to stay calm. You want to stay, you don't want to lose it. You want to show them how to handle a problem. Okay, the problem is he or she doesn't want to do their homework or something. you get much further if you try to figure out what's going on with you. What is the big deal about homework? But a lot of times it's just we don't think about school as requiring courage, but it does require a certain amount of courage to raise your hand, or when you're called on in class, to have to give an answer that you're not sure of. That's a little scary. We don't think of it that way. We think of, courage in school as being, taking a fastball under the chin and then hitting the next one out of the park, or, running right over people on the football field, or something like that is what we tend to think of as courage. But it takes courage to do well, to take the risk in class of raising your hand or of even answering. The teacher will call on you periodically, but they're not going to wait around forever for an answer. You got to keep a certain pace in the classroom. So if you don't answer, she'll go on to the next, or he'll go on to the next person, and you will not have contributed, and you will have reinforced your feelings of failure and inadequacy. And that's, by all means, that's not what we want to see you teaching your ADHD kid. They come into life with a different brain. And it's not the brain that most of our society is trained for. Because school's an absolute nightmare for ADHD kids. Okay, you have a kid whose brain metabolizes neurotransmitters faster than normal, so he's restless and trying to keep the neurotransmitters flowing. And he's in a situation where for 6 or 8 hours he's supposed to sit still, not move, don't get up, don't walk around. You get to change classes, but we don't even give them enough time to do that anymore. So they're carrying all the books they own from classroom to classroom. It is just a system that's not designed for them. Fortunately, they eventually graduate, and they have a certain kind of way of thinking. Their brain works a certain way that makes them terrific problem solvers. They look at situations, and first of all, they look at them in a slightly different way. So they are more apt to see a problem solution where a lot of folks won't see a problem solution. Most folks, a neurotypical brain, and that's what we call folks who don't have ADHD, neurotypicals, they're really good at sustaining the current situation. The current organizational structure at the job, the certain structure at home, which is the same structure that their parents had, and so on. They tend to do the same thing over and over again. But folks who solve unusual problems, we're seeing now that we have a lot of troubles. Ecologically, the planet is not looking very good. As I'm speaking right now, we have 3 hurricanes floating around somewhere. And we've had the hottest summer we've ever had in pretty much the whole planet. Okay? This is not normal. Okay? This is not because we've been such good stewards of the planet. But you need somebody who thinks outside the box, somebody who is a non-typical thinker who can solve these things. They can see, oh, look, this, why wouldn't this work? Oh, great, it would. And that, we need that. Because the neurotypicals aren't solving the problem. Matter of fact, they mostly are just making it worse. And so, this is a long-winded sort of thing. Like I said, I do not diagnose oppositional defiant. very rarely in an ADHD kid. Whether or not they tend to become defiant continuously depends a lot on the parents. Okay? And if you can stay calm and model for them a way of looking at stressful situations, a calm, rational way of looking at situations that allows for you to develop a solution rather than take it as a measure of your personal worth, you're going to have far fewer temper tantrums. You're going to have far fewer problems with far fewer problems. I just had a neighbor yell something at somebody, but anyway, far fewer problems with trying again. I mean, ideally, we want to raise resilient children, especially if they have ADHD, because they're going to have to get used to picking themselves up when they fall flat on their faces and trying again, figure out a new way to work. And you've got to teach them to do that. And that's not going to be done by yelling at them, arguing with them, having a temper tantrum in front of them at all. It's that's just going to make it worse. You're going to have a kid who will never come visit you once he leaves the house or she leaves the house. So it's amazing to people. It's amazing to parents when they start being more positive and calmer and handling situations without a bunch of yelling and screaming and force, fear, and punishment kinds of things. They're amazed at how much better their child's behavior gets. I mean, I've seen that over and over and over again. Matter of fact, a lot of times what I'll do is have a parent, take a 3x5 card, carry it around with you all the time. And on one side of the card, make a mark every time you make a positive statement to your child. On the other side of the card, you make a mark every time you say something critical, corrective. If you do that for a week or so, it can be very enlightening. Okay, that is me for today. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this has been Dr. G's ADHD Chat. This is a show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. As I was saying before, we need those people. We need people who think outside the box. And ADHDers, by definition, think outside the box. They'll come up with the unique solutions to our problems that a neurotypical typically won't. That was too many typicals, wasn't it? Anyway, you get the point. And so if you can do nothing else with your child, stay calm. Don't make it worse by getting as angry as he or she does. It's just a losing game. You're not there to prove that you're bigger and stronger. You're there to show that you can be a leader, that you can model the kinds of behaviors that adults need to have. So with that, I will catch you next week. Got to let you know that pretty soon I'm going to be starting my course on strategic parenting. And we cover a lot of this kind of stuff, things that, if nothing else, can avoid making the situation worse and frequently make it a whole bunch better. But I'll tell you more about that when we get a little closer. Okay, catch you next week.